The night was thick with danger, shadows twisting beneath the silver light of a waning moon. In the valley where two tribes had waged silent wars for generations, every rustle of leaves was a warning, every crack of a twig a threat. Amid the chaos, a woman moved with fierce purpose, her heart pounding not from fear, but from the burden she carried. She had hidden a warrior from the rival tribe, a man sworn enemy to her people, yet wounded and desperate. To protect him was to risk everything. Whispers had traveled fast that evening, carried by the wind like smoke before a prairie fire. A woman shielding a foe was unheard of, unthinkable. Yet there she was, standing firm between a knife's edge and the roar of angry voices. Her hands steady, her eyes burning with the kind of courage that only comes when hope is all that remains. That night, in the heart of bitter hostility, a fragile trust was born from an act of defiance. What happened next morning would stun everyone. As dawn cracked open the horizon, elders from both tribes converged, not with weapons raised, but with open hands. They came bearing peace treaties, long awaited and once thought impossible. No one could explain the sudden shift, the thaw in years of hatred and bloodshed. Some said it was a miracle. Others whispered it was the power of one woman's unwavering bravery, the kind of bravery that changes the course of history. This isn't just a story about battle or truce. It's a story about sacrifice, about the unexpected strength of one soul standing against the tide of war to build a bridge where others saw only a chasm. It's a story that asks us, what price will you pay for peace? And what will you risk to protect what matters most, even if it means guarding your greatest enemy? Stay with me, because this tale, wrapped in dust and resolve, will take you to the edge of loyalty and courage and back again. It will remind you that sometimes the bravest act isn't to raise a weapon, but to lower it. And that peace, when born from such sacrifice, is a force stronger than any sword. The woman, known among her people as Anya, was no stranger to hardship. Raised in a world where loyalty was tested by bloodshed, and every dawn could bring news of loss, she carried the weight of her tribe's expectations with quiet strength. When the warriors stumbled into her village, wounded and desperate, she saw not an enemy, but a human being on the brink of death. The decision to shelter him was not born from naivety, but from a deep-rooted belief that life could transcend hatred, if only someone dared to act. Night after night, Anya tended to the warrior's wounds, her hands steady despite the pounding fear in her chest. She worked silently, knowing that discovery would mean death, not just for him, but for her. The village was tense. Whispers of arrival among them grew louder. But Anya's resolve was unwavering. She wrapped each bandage as if weaving a fragile thread between enemies, hoping that thread could one day bind their fractured worlds. Meanwhile, the warrior, whose name was Kale, was no stranger to conflict either. Scarred not just in flesh, but in spirit, he had been raised to despise Anya's people as the enemy. But as days passed in that hidden shelter, something began to change. He saw the compassion in her eyes, the courage that defied generations of hatred. For the first time, the line between friend and foe blurred. In the quiet moments between pain and healing, a silent understanding took root, one that neither tribe could have anticipated. Anya knew the risk she took. The weight of her tribe's anger hung over her like a storm cloud ready to burst. But her heart refused to bend to fear. She believed that the acts of one could ripple through many, that sheltering a single warrior might one day stop countless lives from being lost. And in that belief, she found a strength deeper than any blade or gunshot. It was the strength to stand alone if need be, for the hope of peace. As dawn neared on the seventh night, Anya and Kale shared a look that spoke volumes. Neither needed words. They both understood that what they had was fragile, and time was running out. Outside, the world waited, with all its fury and its hope, to see if courage could truly break the chains of the past. The first light of morning brought more than just a new day. It brought the elders. Anya had expected fury, accusations, perhaps even exile. Instead, she saw something she hadn't dared hope for: hesitation. The elders from her tribe arrived quietly, their faces etched with the pain of decades-old wounds, but also with the faintest glimmers of curiosity. They did not come with weapons drawn. They came with questions, and maybe, for the first time, with open minds. Across the valley, Kale's tribe gathered as well, their own elders stepping cautiously toward the possibility of dialogue. Years of bloodshed had taught them to trust little and fear much. But the news that Anya had protected one of their own sent ripples of shock that spread even among the youngest warriors. This act of bravery had ignited something dangerous: hope. The kind of hope that makes even the hardest hearts pause. Meetings were held in the cool shade of the ancient cottonwoods, where smoke from ceremonial fires drifted like prayers. Anya and Kale were present, not as enemies, but as symbols of something greater. Their bond, forged in silence and sacrifice, challenged everything both tribes had believed. Words were exchanged slowly, carefully, like walking across fragile ice. But with each passing hour, the weight of hatred began to lift, replaced by cautious understanding. The elders, guided by memories of loss and the wisdom of age, began drafting peace treaties. It was a process steeped in tradition and tempered by necessity. Boundaries were redrawn, not just on maps, but in hearts. Ancient grievances were acknowledged, and promises were made, not easily, but sincerely. The world that had once seemed destined for endless war now glimpsed a fragile dawn of peace, born from the courage of one woman and one warrior. As the sun set behind the hills, Anya and Kale stood side by side, watching the first flickers of light from both villages mingle in the valley below. The road ahead was uncertain and fraught with challenges, but for the first time in generations, it was a road they would walk together, not as foes, but as allies forged through sacrifice and hope. In the days that followed, the village pulsed with cautious optimism. The once harsh glances between tribes softened into nods of acknowledgement. Children from both sides began playing near the riverbanks, their laughter a fragile but welcome sound that had long been absent. Yet, beneath this budding peace, tension lingered, like the calm before a storm. Anya knew better than most that trust wasn't given lightly, and history's shadows stretched long across the land. She spent many evenings sitting by the fire with Kale, sharing stories of their pasts, stories heavy with loss, fear, and lessons carved deep into their souls. In those moments, they discovered not just the wounds of their people, but the common threads that bound them: love for their families, reverence for the land, and a longing for something better. It was in this shared humanity that the true power of their alliance began to take root. Meanwhile, the elders worked tirelessly to weave the threads of peace into the fabric of their tribes. Meetings stretched long into the night, filled with debate, hesitation, and moments of silent reflection. Some resisted fiercely, unwilling to let go of old grievances. But the sight of Anya and Kale, living proof that enemies could become protectors, challenged even the most stubborn hearts. Their courage became a beacon, lighting a path away from endless conflict. Anya's role grew beyond that of a protector. She became a symbol of hope, a reminder that the future could be rewritten by those brave enough to act differently. Her once solitary courage inspired others to question the cycles of revenge that had gripped their ancestors. Small acts of kindness blossomed: shared meals, exchanged goods, and joint patrols along contested borders. Each gesture was a brick laid toward lasting peace. Yet, peace remained delicate. Anya knew that one wrong move could unravel everything. But with each sunrise, the valley breathed a little easier, the wounds of the past slowly healing under the patient hands of time. And in the heart of it all, a woman and a warrior stood together, living proof that even in the harshest of lands, compassion could change the course of history. But peace, like the desert wind, is never still for long. Whispers of dissent stirred among those who clung to old rivalries, unwilling to embrace change. One moonless night, a group of young warriors from Anya's tribe plotted a strike back, fueled by fear and the sting of past losses. Their plan threatened to shatter the fragile truce, and with it, the hope that had begun to bloom. Anya caught wind of the plot through quiet voices and shadowed meetings. She felt the weight of her choice heavier than ever, knowing that protecting Kale had not only risked her life, but now endangered the future of her people. The path she had chosen was fraught with peril, and the cost of failure was unthinkable. But retreat was not an option. She resolved to confront the unrest before it ignited the valley in flames once again. With the dawn breaking like fire on the horizon, Anya gathered the elders and the youth involved in the plan. She spoke not with anger, but with the steady conviction of one who had seen both sides of war and peace. She reminded them of the pain that endless fighting had wrought, the empty seats at tables, the silent names etched in stone, the land scorched by blood. Her words were a plea and a challenge, to choose the future over the past. Her courage in facing her own tribe sparked conversations that rippled through both villages. Young warriors began to question the cycles they had inherited, seeing in Anya's bravery a new way forward. Kale stood by her side, his presence a silent testament to what could be achieved when enemies choose to protect rather than destroy. Slowly, the plans dissolved, replaced by dialogues and tentative agreements. In that moment, the valley breathed again, deeper, freer. The fragile peace held, not because it was easy, but because a few dared to fight for it with words and deeds rather than swords. And Anya, the woman who once hid a rival warrior, had become the heart of a movement that would redefine her people's legacy for generations to come. With the tension easing, the two tribes began to intertwine their lives in ways once thought impossible. Shared harvests became common, and the council fires were lit side by side under starlit skies. Stories, songs, and dances once kept behind closed doors were exchanged openly, weaving a new tapestry of culture that honored both heritages. Anya and Kale watched this transformation with quiet pride, knowing that the peace was fragile but growing stronger with every act of unity. Anya's leadership blossomed beyond her initial act of protection. She became a bridge, an ambassador of peace who moved effortlessly between the villages, calming fears and fostering understanding. Her courage was contagious, inspiring others to let down their weapons and open their hearts. Even the elders who once doubted her now sought her counsel, recognizing the power in her unwavering commitment to a better future. Kale, once a warrior shaped by conflict, embraced a new role as protector not just of his people, but of the fragile harmony they had built. He trained young men and women to defend not with hatred but with honor, teaching them that true strength lies in guarding peace as fiercely as war. Together, he and Anya symbolized the dawn of a new era, a testament to what could be achieved when courage meets compassion. Yet, beneath the blossoming peace, Anya never forgot the cost. She visited the graves of those lost to generations of violence, whispering promises that their deaths would not be in vain. She carried their memory like a flame, a reminder that peace was a choice made every day, requiring vigilance and sacrifice. In her heart, she knew the road ahead would not be easy, but it was worth every hardship. And so the valley, once a battleground, began to heal. The warrior she protected had become her partner in rebuilding a world where enemies could become allies, where peace treaties were more than words on parchment, they were living bonds. Together, they had shown that even the deepest wounds of history could be healed by the unlikeliest of heroes. But peace, as the elders warned, is never guaranteed. Rumors of distant tribes watching the valley with envy spread like wildfire. Outside forces coveted the fertile lands and a newfound unity that promised prosperity. Anya and Kale knew that their hard-won peace would soon be tested, not by old enemies within, but by outsiders eager to exploit division for their own gain. In preparation, they called for a gathering, a council of all tribes and clans willing to defend the peace. Under the wide expanse of the desert sky, leaders came together, sharing stories, forging alliances, and pledging mutual protection. Anya's voice rang clear through the assembly, a call to stand united against those who sought to tear them apart. Her bravery ignited a spark of resilience that no outsider could extinguish. Together, they devised strategies rooted not in conquest, but in defense of their homes and values. Young warriors trained alongside elders, blending traditions with new tactics born from necessity. The valley became a fortress, not of walls, but of community, trust, and shared purpose. The peace treaties now carried the weight of a people ready to fight for their future, shoulder to shoulder. As seasons turned, the threat loomed closer, but the valley stood firm. And in the heart of it all were Anya and Kale, symbols of hope, courage, and the enduring power of peace forged through sacrifice. Their story, once whispered in fear, became a legend told with pride, a reminder that the bravest warriors are sometimes those who choose peace over war. And when the dawn finally broke over the valley, it did so with the promise that no matter the darkness ahead, the light born from courage and compassion would never fade. The valley had transformed into more than just a place of tentative peace. It had become a beacon of resilience, a living testament to what could be achieved when enemies chose understanding over destruction. Anya and Kale, once divided by birth and blood, now stood united not only in purpose but in vision. Together, they nurtured a community where stories of past violence were replaced with tales of shared triumph, where the children of rival tribes played without fear, their laughter echoing across the hills like a healing hymn. But beneath this fragile serenity lay a profound awareness that peace was neither simple nor permanent. The wounds of old grudges remained, hidden beneath smiles and handshakes, ready to reopen with the slightest provocation. Anya carried this knowledge like a silent burden, reminding herself daily that the path to lasting harmony demanded vigilance, patience, and unwavering commitment. At the heart of the valley's revival were the elders, once staunch warriors who had fought fiercely against one another, but now gathered in council beneath the ancient cottonwoods. Their dialogues were slow and deliberate, rich with wisdom and tempered by years of sorrow. These men and women recognized that the peace they forged was a fragile thread woven through centuries of bloodshed and mistrust. Each treaty signed was not just a document, but a sacred pact, a promise to uphold not only the law of the land, but the law of humanity. Anya, with her fierce spirit and steadfast resolve, had become the living embodiment of that promise. She was no longer just a protector of a single warrior. She was the guardian of a future that once seemed impossible, a future where unity might finally overcome division. Kale's transformation was equally profound. Where once his days were filled with the thunder of hooves and the clash of steel, he now found purpose in the quieter arts of guidance and teaching. His hands, once callous from war, became steady in their care, mending fences, nurturing crops, and instructing the youth not only in the ways of the warrior, but in the values of empathy and respect. He understood that the true strength of a people lay not in their ability to wage war, but in their capacity to foster peace. Under his watchful eye, a new generation was raised, warriors in skill but ambassadors in heart, ready to defend their homes with courage, but also to welcome dialogue over discord. The valley itself seemed to respond to this awakening. The land, scarred by past conflicts, blossomed anew, fed by the collective hope of its people. Rivers ran clearer, fields yielded richer harvests, and the sky stretched wider, embracing a community learning to breathe together after a long, suffocating silence. Each dawn brought with it a renewed sense of possibility, a reminder that while the past could not be undone, the future was still theirs to shape. Yet, Anya and Kale knew better than anyone that this fragile harmony was a precious gift, one that required continual nurturing, strength to face inevitable challenges, and a willingness to forgive even when the wounds ran deep. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting golden light over the valley, Anya and Kale would often stand side by side on a ridge, overlooking the land they had helped save. In those quiet moments, words were unnecessary. Their shared gaze spoke of battles fought and peace won, of sacrifices made and hopes rekindled. And though the road ahead remained uncertain, they found solace in the knowledge that they had altered the course of history, proof that even in a world shaped by conflict, compassion and courage could carve a path toward lasting peace. Yet, the peace they had fought so hard to build was soon to face its greatest trial. Beyond the valley's protective hills, the rumblings of external threats grew louder. Tribes and factions unwilling to accept this newfound harmony, jealous of the unity that had taken root in a land once shattered by strife. These outsiders coveted the fertile lands, the burgeoning alliances, and the promise of a stable future. Their arrival was not heralded by diplomatic courtesies, but by the cold approach of hardened riders, their faces masked by dust and intent, their hearts set on reigniting the fires of war. Anya and Kale, aware of this looming danger, moved swiftly to prepare their people, not just to defend their homes, but to protect the fragile peace that now defined their very existence. The call went out across the valley, summoning elders, warriors, and villagers alike to a grand council beneath the sprawling branches of the ancient cottonwood trees. Here, leaders from both tribes and willing neighboring clans convened in a rare display of unity, their voices blending into a chorus of resolve and determination. Anya's impassioned speech echoed through the gathering, a clarion call that reminded all present of the hard-won peace and the shared dreams that bound them. She spoke not only of defense, but of hope, the hope that their alliance could withstand even the darkest storms, that their courage and compassion would be the shield against those who sought division and chaos. Her words stirred hearts, igniting a fierce loyalty that transcended old rivalries. In the weeks that followed, the valley transformed into a bastion of preparedness and solidarity. Training grounds buzzed with activity as young warriors learned not only the arts of combat, but the principles of honor and restraint instilled by Kale's steady guidance. Elders and strategists collaborated to create defenses rooted in both tradition and innovation, weaving a network of vigilance that stretched across the borders. The community moved as one, a tapestry of strength and hope, each individual playing a vital role in safeguarding the future they had forged together. And through it all, Anya and Kale remained the steadfast heart of this alliance, a living testament to the power of unity born from courage. Amid the looming threat, moments of tenderness and humanity continued to flourish. Anya and Kale found solace in quiet evenings by the fire, sharing stories that wove together their past hardships and dreams for the future. Their bond deepened, reflecting the transformation not only of their people, but of themselves. No longer defined solely by the scars of war, they embodied a new legacy, one of healing, resilience, and unwavering commitment to peace. Their example inspired all who lived in the valley to believe that even in the face of adversity, compassion and courage could prevail. As the enemy forces finally approached the valley's edge, they were met not by fragmented tribes, but by a united people, ready to defend the peace that had been so arduously built. The banners of alliance fluttered proudly, carried by warriors whose hearts had been shaped by the bravery of one woman's choice and one warrior's transformation. And in that defining moment, the valley stood as a beacon, a symbol of hope and the enduring power of peace born from sacrifice. The story of Anya and Kale was no longer just whispered among their people. It had become a legend that would echo through generations, reminding all that even the fiercest battles could be won not only with weapons, but with the courage to protect what truly matters. The clash that followed was fierce and unyielding, but the valley's defenders fought with a resolve deeper than any blade. The warriors, young and old alike, moved as one, their spirits intertwined by the shared dream that Anya and Kale had sparked. Each strike they parried was not just for survival, but for the promise of peace, a promise made real by sacrifice and unwavering trust. Amid the thunder of hooves and cries of battle, Anya stood at the forefront, her eyes blazing with determination, shielding not only her people, but the fragile future they had built together. Kale fought beside her, a pillar of strength and experience, his every move honed by years of both conflict and compassion. The lessons he imparted to the young warriors echoed through the chaos, guiding their hands and hearts. They fought not out of hatred, but to protect a hard-won harmony, knowing that every moment they held the line was a victory over the cycles of violence that had once consumed them. The valley, scarred but unbroken, became a testament to what could be defended when courage met conviction. As the dust settled and the enemy retreated, weary and broken, the true victory revealed itself, not in the blood spilled, but in the faces of those who had stood firm. Tears mingled with smiles, and songs of triumph rose from the hearts of a people who had dared to hope. Anya and Kale, though battered and worn, found solace in the knowledge that their courage had kindled a flame strong enough to withstand the darkest storms. Their peace was no longer fragile. It was battle-tested and real. In the aftermath, the tribes came together once more, not to prepare for war, but to celebrate unity. The elders signed renewed treaties, binding their fates with words spoken from the depths of shared struggle. Children played freely in the fields, and the valley blossomed under a sky that promised new beginnings. Anya and Kale, symbols of this transformation, walked the land with quiet pride, knowing that the legacy they had forged was not built on the sword, but on the strength to protect and forgive. Their story, carried on the wind and etched into the hearts of the valley's people, became a beacon of hope far beyond their home. It reminded all who heard it that peace is not the absence of conflict, but the triumph of courage and compassion over fear and hatred. And in the dusty heart of the Old West, where shadows of the past still lingered, a new dawn had risen, one lit by the unbreakable spirit of two souls who dared to protect what others sought to destroy. As years passed, the valley flourished like never before. Trade routes opened, and neighboring tribes came not as enemies, but as partners in prosperity. The peace treaty signed in blood and hope laid the foundation for a new era, one where cooperation replaced conquest, and understanding blossomed where suspicion once reigned. Anya and Kale's names became synonymous with this golden age, their lives intertwined with the valley's destiny. Anya took on the role of mentor and leader, guiding the next generation with wisdom carved from experience. She taught that true bravery was found not only on the battlefield, but in the everyday choices to stand for peace, to listen when others shout, and to protect even those once deemed foes. Kale continued to train warriors, emphasizing honor and restraint, ensuring that their strength served not destruction, but the protection of community and legacy. Together, They nurtured traditions that celebrated unity, weaving ceremonies and rituals that honored both tribes' histories while embracing their shared future. Festivals filled the valley with music and dance, where laughter replaced the echoes of war drums. The land itself seemed to heal, fields abundant and rivers running clear, a reflection of the harmony blossoming among its people. Their final years were marked by quiet reflection and gratitude. Sitting beneath the stars on the ridge where they once stood divided, Anya and Kale spoke little, their companionship a silent testament to the journey they had walked together. The legacy they left was not written in grand monuments or forgotten battles, but in the hearts of a people transformed, proof that even the deepest wounds can be healed by courage, compassion, and the unyielding hope for peace. And so, the story of a woman who protected a warrior, and a warrior who chose peace, lived on, carried by the wind, whispered by the trees, and etched forever into the soul of the valley. A story that reminds us all, sometimes, the bravest act is to protect not just one life, but the future of many. This story teaches us that true bravery is rarely found in the clash of weapons or the roar of battle. It is born in moments of quiet defiance, when one person chooses compassion over cruelty, protection over prejudice. Anya's choice to shield a rival warrior was not just an act of mercy. It was a spark that ignited a movement of peace that forever changed the course of two tribes bound by generations of conflict. It reminds us that peace is not a gift granted by the powerful, but a prize earned by the courageous. The journey of Anya and Kale challenges us to reconsider the meaning of loyalty and strength. Loyalty does not demand blind hatred of others, nor does strength lie only in domination. Instead, it resides in the willingness to stand for what is right, even when it puts us at risk. Strength is the courage to build bridges where others have built walls. Their story invites us to ask ourselves, how far would we go to protect not just our own, but even those we once called enemies? As the dust settles over the valley and the sun sets on the horizon of old wounds, we see the power of choice. Peace was not inevitable. It was hard-fought, fragile, and required constant vigilance. Yet it endured, carried forward by the hearts of those who dare to hope. In our own lives, we face conflicts that may seem as vast and ancient as those of the tribes, but the lesson remains. Every act of kindness, every moment of courage, can ripple beyond what we imagine and build a legacy of harmony. If this story resonated with you, if it stirred your spirit or opened your eyes to the power of compassion and courage, I invite you to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that inspire, challenge, and uplift. Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell us what moved you, or how this story reflects your own journey. And if you believe in the power of peace, give this video a like, so others may find strength in these words as well. Together, we keep these stories alive, not just as tales of the past, but as guides for the future. Because in every corner of the world, the courage to protect, to forgive, and to unite is the greatest legacy we can leave behind.